Hey everybody, what's up? Long time no see, I know. I am jumping on today because I have been meaning to do this video series for what feels like forever. I got asked about it multiple times before, and so this time I want to actually get into it and talk about it as I've had time to actually write things down, do some research, and put an idea together. Now I know it has been forever, and part of the reason that I am now making this series is because I am jumping back into a prep for a competition. If you've been following me, you know that I was supposed to be competing in a wellness show a couple months ago, but that actually didn't ever happen. We had some financial things come up and the timing just wasn't right, and I kind of just knew that I wasn't going to be ready in terms of muscularity in my lower body, so I wanted to give myself more time to grow. But now it is the beginning of 2022 and we are jumping into another competition, hopefully in April. But I don't want to get too much into that yet. We'll kind of save the vlogging of prep for later down the road. For now, I want to focus on this video series. So this series is going to be about how to start competing in bodybuilding, mainly without a coach. Because people have asked me that, and because I competed without a coach last time, a lot of people are interested in how that can be done. So I've kind of laid out a way to lay it out for people who are going to get a coach and people who aren't. If you are going to get a coach, you'll kind of end the video series afterwards, after like a couple videos, and that'll be about all you get. So whether you are going to use a coach or not, the very first thing you're going to want to do if you are thinking about joining a bodybuilding competition is figure out which federation you want to join and compete in. There are so many different federations, and I've listed out here in my notes a couple of the really big ones and kind of like what they entail, because they are going to be different. Oh crap, my battery. Okay, so as I was saying before, my battery died. There are different federations, and each one is going to require different things depending on what you can have to enter, as well as how you will compete on stage. So the first one is going to be OCB, which is the Organization of Competitive Bodybuilders. They are an all-natural federation, and that means that when you go to your show, you will be polygraphed and you will be drug tested at your own expense. That drug test is tests things like anabolic steroids, it tests for anti-estrogen, it tests for prescription grade stimulants, it tests for SARMs, and I'm sure that there's a list, and if you go to OCB's website, they detail out everything you can and can't have. If you have prescription for like testosterone, if you are older, then I don't know exactly what their things are with that, but there are special things that they do have to take into consideration for that kind of stuff. But if you are on some sort of like an anti-estrogen, certain fat burners, I've heard that even some things in certain pre-workouts can disqualify you from one of these competitions. So you have to be very careful. I think this is a great organization for people who are just starting out, maybe don't have as much muscle definition. You're going to be competing with people who are all natural, guaranteed. You're going to be competing with natural competitors and not against somebody who might be performance enhanced by some sort of a supplement. The OCB is pretty small in comparison to something like the NPC, so your shows will be a little bit smaller. And it also has their bikini girls will do a T-walk on the stage, which I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I've watched a few things, and they get some sort of creative power in how they demonstrate their look when they walk on stage individually, and other organizations don't necessarily allow that. They require more strict posing. The second one is going to be the NPC. That is what I've competed in. It's what probably a lot of people that if you follow them on Instagram, a lot of them may compete in. It is the most recognized and the largest bodybuilding federation in the world. It is not tested. It doesn't mean that you cannot compete naturally. It just means that there's a chance that you will be competing with people who are not natural, that they are enhanced, which is going to give them a little bit of a one-up if it's something for like muscularity. Now, if you're going into bikini, it might not be as big of a deal, but if you are going into, say, women's physique or women's bodybuilding, even women's figure nowadays, a lot of those women are going to be enhanced. In the NPC, the shows are typically bigger. You can find them kind of all over the country, larger cities like Dallas and Miami and places in California. They have tons of shows all year long. that you can compete in. They do have specific posing, so you don't get as much creativity. That does not mean that you don't get any, it just means that you don't get as much. You're going to be hitting the same poses that the other competitors in your category are hitting. So for bikini, you're gonna have a front pose and a transition into a back pose, and then back to your front pose. And where you get some creativity will be in those transitions. And then obviously each category has different requirements for posing. The NPC is one place that you can take your career to the pro level, but it takes a little bit more than other organizations. OCB, you can also go pro. You can go pro in the NPC, but it requires that you come in, I believe, top 2 at a national qualifying show, and then you have to attend a national show, and some of them, it is only going to be the top person in their class that receives their pro card. And if you get into like nationals that happens in Florida, in Orlando, I believe it's the top 2 in each height class will get their pro card, but you're competing against a huge number of people. Also in the NPC, your classes are all divided by height. So say you enter into the bikini class, you will be classed as class A, B, C, D. I think they can even go up from there. A being the shortest, and then so on, and they go up to like, so I'm class A in just everything that I do because I'm very short. I'm 4'11". So class A is typically like up to 5'2". So you'll only be competing with people that are of your height level until you're into the overall round, and then you compete with people from all the different height levels. The last federation that I wanted to talk about, because I think it's really cool and it's becoming increasingly popular, is the WBFF, which is the World Beauty, Fitness, and Fashion. And so this is structured almost like a fashion show, and there are multiple rounds. So instead of just buying one bikini for your show, you're going to have multiple outfits. You'll have a bikini round, there will be an evening gown round, and then a theme wear round. I don't know a lot about this federation, but I do know that what I've read is that their rules are a bit more complicated than other federations, as well as their posing, because they have so many rounds and so much to go through. Another thing to take into consideration with this federation is that it's probably going to cost you quite a bit more money, just for the fact that if you're planning to pay for a coach, that's going to be something, your gym membership, supplements. But then when you get to the actual show, then you're talking about a bikini, an evening gown, and theme wear. And if you want, you can look up the WBFF, and I can post something here that kind of gives you an idea of what it is. Their theme wear is over the top. It's extravagant. It's got gems, it's got lace, it's got sequins. It is, and these are typically custom made outfits, and they can go into the $1,000 range for just one piece of your show, plus your gown and your bikini. So you can see how the price can add up pretty quick. They also don't have nearly as many shows throughout the United States, so you kind of have to pick and choose where you're able to go and if you're able to travel. Now, those 3 are not the only federations that you can choose from. I will link down below a link to a website that gives a huge list of all the different federations there are. I will say this, most outside of like the NPC and the WBFF, they're going to be natural federations. They're just broken off into smaller federations or different federations because they have either different rules or different posing or something that makes them different from the others. But if that's something that you're interested in, definitely check out the link down there, and then you can kind of see where it's going to be. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about in this part is going to be your starting point and your financial situation, because those 2 things are going to determine the next chunk of time that you have in prep for a show. So when you are talking about where you are starting personally, I want you to be as objective as you possibly can. I want you to look at your body and not have any preconceived ideas. And I know that's very difficult. It's a lot easier said than done, but it's one of the best tools you're going to have. And this is whether you're going to hire a coach or not, especially if you're not going to hire a coach. So you need to have a general idea of what your body fat percentage is. And if you don't, you can go to a gym or a local nutrition store and check around and see if somebody has like an in-body scan. Those are somewhat accurate. And if you do them, say, once every 2 weeks, and you do them under the exact same circumstances, so say on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, it'll give you a more accurate reading. And you do that and you see where your body fat's at. But I also want you to think about how long have you been training. That is going to make a huge difference going into any of these bodybuilding shows. Even in the bikini category now, there is a decent amount of muscle mass that is going to be required to be competitive. Now, anybody can step on stage, but if you're looking to be competitive, you have to really be objective and look at yourself and be able to say, do I have the muscle mass, you know, and quality muscle mass that I've been putting on for an extended period of time? Or are you just getting into weightlifting? Or have you never lifted a weight in your life, but this is an ambition? This will help you kind of determine how long you have to go, because if you are at 30% body fat, then you need to drop, you know, 15, 16, 17% body fat before you're going to be stage ready. And that can take a lot of time. The other side of that is that you may need to put on muscle, which means you're not going to go directly into a calorie deficit phase. You might need to put on enough muscle over the course of another year before you can even start cutting. So I want you to think about that before you decide to just jump into a prep. I did that first, and I look back, I don't wish that I would have done it differently. I just know that it made it much, much more difficult on myself to not really have a better look at where I was and my situation and how far I had to go, because it made the end part very stressful. So I don't know how I actually forgot to film this part yesterday, but we were talking about where you have to be and thinking about your starting point objectively. And a huge part of that is not just your training and your muscular structure underneath or how much fat you have. It's also your diet and how you've dieted over the last couple of years. Have you been on a super restricted diet for months or years? Are you a yo-yo dieter? Are you one that will restrict calories or go keto for a month or two and then go rogue? Those are all things that you're going to have to factor into your starting point, because your body does adapt, and you're going to need to have a decent amount of calories that you can maintain at, so that you can cut from there and still have a decent prep where you're not absolutely starving your body on next to no calories, which is also going to lead to muscle loss. So overall, it's just like a bad situation. So I want you to also consider that. So yeah, I forgot that part. Back to our regular programming. And thinking about finances, I want you to think about where you are financially and if you have the extra money every month that will go towards this ambition of yours. Again, a big part of this is whether or not you're going to hire a coach. And part of the reason I didn't hire a coach was because financially it just wasn't available to me. Coaches can range, and I can't even give you an exact number, but I've heard as low as like $150 a month all the way up to like $600 or $700 a month. And that means like joining a big team. So you have like Fit Body Fusion and I can't think of all of them, but there are teams out there, and then you could get a coach under that team. You can get a individual coach, but either way, that is something you're going to have to pay for either monthly or in a large installment where you just pay the entire prep worth. So like 16 weeks worth of their help and their guidance, and you pay that all in one lump sum. But that's not your only expense. You have to think of the food that you're going to be buying, the supplements you're going to be buying, your entry into the federation. So all of those federations require that you get a membership to them. So I don't know how much OCB or WBFF are, but the NPC organization, you have to renew your membership every year, and that's $135. And then to enter a show is another, typically over $100 per class that you register. So when I registered, I did bikini class, and I did novice, true novice, and then open class. So that was like $345, I believe, because I think it was $115 per class that I entered. And then your suit, and suits can go anywhere from $200 all the way up to $700 or $800. You have to have shoes, you have to have jewelry, you're gonna have tanning, you might wanna have photos done, you have your gym membership. You are probably gonna want some sort of like massage therapy or something like that. These things all cost money, so I want you to genuinely take a look at your budget and see where you are. If you can afford a coach, I 100% recommend that you take that extra money, if this is something you truly want, and hire someone who knows what they're doing, who can get you to stage without all the stress. But if you're like me and you're in a situation where you don't have the money to afford a coach, then keep watching my video because I'm gonna hopefully help you learn how to do it without a coach. But just know that even without a coach, this is a very expensive sport. So those are the 3 things that I'm gonna share in this video. I promise that I will not wait nearly as long. I will be posting the next one in a week or so and sharing with you part 2 on how to start competing in bodybuilding. Thank you guys for your patience and still following along with me, and I will see you guys next time.